So as you guys know, this is a workshop for those of us who may have had little quarantine belly and may be feeling stuck. It's also for people who may have had weight struggles for years and quarantine may have made it worse, or it may be a new thing for you. So, but this is to help. We're actually I'm using weight loss or belly fat as a motivator to help people improve their health. That's my whole thing. Like, if we focus on health, then losing weight's a natural side effect. If we focus on fighting our bodies and hating our bodies and just focusing on the pounds and all that stuff, it usually doesn't lead to any lasting change and can actually cause more health problems. So my intentions, the takeaways I want you to have is I want you to understand that excess belly fat and weight gain are symptoms of underlying health imbalances. So it's your body telling you something's off and that it needs more nurture. I also want you to understand, if you've dieted in the past and it hasn't stuck or worked out for you, you didn't fail diets failed you. So if it didn't work for you, then there's probably something more wrong with the diet than with you. You didn't have the right support. I also want you to have a broader understanding of the root causes of weight gain. I know some of them are very obvious, but there's some other ones that aren't so obvious. So I want you to understand all the pieces of the puzzle, or have a broader understanding. And then I want you to understand I want you to learn what's needed for lasting change, like, so you can get off the weight loss, weight gain roller coaster, because that actually does damage your body in the long run. And I also want you to feel confident that you're actually capable of gaining health and losing weight. Even if you've been stuck for a long time, even if you've been dieting for decades or since you were a kid, that, I've seen this change in my own family and with clients. So it's totally doable. You just haven't maybe found the right combination yet. The first thing I want to say is that there isn't one right body type, and it's natural and healthy to have some fat. You're not supposed to have no fat. So it's just when we have excess that it's a sign of a problem. And then there's a difference between visceral fat, which is around your organs. So some people can kind of look thin, but have visceral fat around their organs. Other people may have more subcutaneous or fat under their skin and have less visceral fat. And the visceral fat is actually the fat that causes the most organ damage and health problems. So there's a term called skinny fat for people who look thin, but maybe just have a little bit of belly fat and have some visceral fat around their organs. So you may have seen this and, the promotion for this webinar, but there was a survey in February of 2021 that 42% of US adults have experienced undesired weight gain since the pandemic started, and that was a year ago. And it's continued for a lot of people. The average gain in that survey was 29 pounds. So if you've gained anything, you're clearly not alone. And belly fat's a symptom of underlying health problems. So what's interesting is that if you look at the root causes, what makes us gain weight, and you look at what causes chronic illness or accelerated aging, like autoimmune disease, heart disease, cancer, anxiety, depression, there are just so many different medical conditions that if you look at the underlying causes, they're the same as the underlying causes for belly fat. So this is a health concern. It's not about trying to attain some societal norm for body image. And then some of you may also notice that maybe you're struggling with low energy. You may have brain fog, tummy issues, digestive issues, aches and pains, trouble sleeping, not sleeping well, not feeling rested. You also may have more anxiety, depression, or overwhelm. So it's usually all tied together. And then I think you guys have heard ad nauseum that obesity increases your risk of COVID hospitalization complications. So blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so in this context, it is a concern, but regardless of the pandemic, I would want you to be concerned anyway. The cool thing is I just told you all the negative, bad stuff that is probably not news to you. So that's not really useful unless I tell you the good stuff, which is what happens if we take care of it. So when we address the root causes of belly fat and weight gain, then we also decrease our risk of disease and disability. There's a statistic from the Center for Disease Control that 6 out of 10 Americans has been diagnosed with a debilitating chronic medical condition. And then 4 out of 10 have been diagnosed with 2 or more, and that's just people who've been diagnosed, and that's all Americans, including babies. So I think it's really important to understand that, we're at high risk if we're doing what everybody else is doing. And also, this is going to give you more energy, confidence, calm, and joy. So it has a very emotional and psychological effect because your mind and your body are not separate. You're not a floating head dragging the body around. Like, it's all the same. Every emotion has a physical corollary, and every physical sensation creates emotion and thought and that kind of thing. So it's all connected. And then the idea is to also have more total pleasure and fulfillment in life, because when you feel good and your emotions are uplifted and you have mental clarity and you're enjoying what you're doing, then your life is just better. You have more total pleasure. Okay, so I just want to run through some of the more conventional weight loss approaches and why they don't work. So I'm not going to go into extreme detail on any of these, but this is stuff you can research. I really like functional medicine, integrative medicine. There's a lot of data, there's a lot of science, but there are a lot of people who are writing articles that are lay friendly. So one of the things that's already been established in research is that a low-fat diet is not good for you. The problem with fats is if you eat crappy fats, like if you eat Crisco or margarine or refined vegetable oils like canola oil, safflower oil. Well, safflower is actually not that bad. Canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, those oils aren't shelf stable. So they basically have to turn them rancid and then deodorize them to make them shelf stable. So if you've ever smelled anything rancid, like nuts or seeds or vegetable oil, it smells terrible. And the reason it smells terrible is because it's toxic and it's your body telling you not to eat it. But the processed food industry has deodorized these foods and made it where you can't really detect that you're eating something inflammatory. So the irony is that, this whole that saturated fats are all bad and unsaturated fats are all good is actually not true. If the saturated fat is from a healthy animal or plant, like like coconut oil, something like that, or even olive oil is partially saturated, it's actually good for, it's actually anti-inflammatory. If you're eating a rancid vegetable oil, called PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, then that's actually going to cause inflammation. It's going to affect your metabolism. It's also going to cause inflammation of the lining of your arteries and affect your liver and your brain, and all kinds of things. It's going to damage your cells. So the American Heart Association was actually founded by the vegetable oil industry. So, there's an interesting story there. Anyway, and then this idea of portion control, I'm going to get into this later. Calorie restriction causes more weight gain and damage to metabolism. It's not good for you. Portion control, okay, let me say, like, obviously if you eat in a balanced way, you're not going to be hungry anymore. You'll naturally stop eating. The occasional person may have a physiological issue where they're having trouble with the hormone called leptin that makes them feel full. And that's tied to blood sugar issues. But when you correct the blood sugar issues, usually the leptin issues follow. So the point is that you want to balance your meals in a way that you get full. Things like protein makes you feel full, fat makes you feel full. And then when you combine them with vegetables, things like that, that can be very filling. What doesn't make you feel full are empty calories, like a bag of chips or popcorn. I'm not saying you can never eat those things. I'm just saying they won't make you feel full until you've eaten way too much of it. But it's not just about portion control. It's about quality. It's about how many nutrients you're getting. It's about how you put a meal together. There's so many factors that affect weight gain. You can actually eat quite a bit of food and not have a weight problem. And you can also eat tiny amounts of food and have a weight problem. Diet pills. Those are stimulants and they're toxic. And they can make you lose weight really fast, but usually when you stop them, you'll yo-yo and you'll gain back that weight more because you didn't fix the underlying problem. You actually were damaging yourself to try to force weight off, which is more of an act of aggression towards your body. Stomach reduction surgeries. I've known two people, one a friend and one a client who, she was my client kind of after the fact. But they were able to lose like 100 pounds having this kind of surgery, but they actually gained it back and then some. Now, there are people who don't regain it, but it's usually because they do the lifestyle. They make the changes that they would have needed to not need the surgery in the first place. So you're not overweight because your stomach, where your food goes, is too big. That's not why you're overweight if you're having a weight problem or if you have belly fat. So I don't recommend those. If you've already done it, you've already done it, right? But it's still really crucial to work on lifestyle and some of these other factors I'm going to talk about. And then liposuction. I don't care if you get liposuction, that's fine. You really need to address the underlying problem. And also when you get that kind of surgery, you're usually on antibiotics. Antibiotics can cause weight gain, so you just have to weigh the, the benefits and costs of that decision. Okay. So then there's like that. So that's, I'm sorry, I wasn't really clear. That was like the medical industry. Like if you go to a doctor, those are your options usually. And then the diet and weight loss injury. Oops, that was a Freudian slip. The diet and weight loss industry usually teaches, it's for a long time. I thought the calories in, calories out thing was over and that we were past that, but I still meet people every day who think this is real and they talk about counting calories. And calories aren't really a useful measure in this context because, like 50 calories of sweet potato, 50 calories of broccoli, 50 calories of olive oil, 50 calories of Skittles, 50 calories of, Doritos or Twinkies are all going to do completely different things in our body, and they're going to have different impacts on. So a calorie isn't a calorie isn't a calorie. They're all different. It depends on the molecular structure of what you're eating and how it's interacting with your physiology, with your biology. So counting calories to me is just a useless waste of time and a form of self-torture. And I did it, didn't work. Okay. Then there's all the fights over macronutrients, carbs, fat, protein. No, carbs are evil. No, fat is evil. No, more protein, less protein, vegan, paleo, whatever, this whole kind of argument over that. Everyone's a little different. Macros are important, but they're different for everybody. And it's not just, are you eating carbs? Because if you're eating sweet potatoes versus white sugar versus Haagen-Dazs versus, an orange versus, carbs from different things do different things in your body. So they're not all the same. Same thing with fat in the keto diet. You can eat a bunch of fat from, canola oil, salad dressing, and that's not going to actually help heal your body because it's inflammatory. So that's why I'm bringing this up. And then willpower, and then feeling guilty and feeling shame when you can't stick with it. If you are using willpower to lose weight or improve your health, then it's not going to work. Like it just will fail because there's something called decision fatigue we get when we're having to, and when you're trying to withstand, if you're trying to override your body's signals, which are nature trying to ask for something you need, and nature will win every time, your body will win out every time. And so you might need to change your thinking. We'll get to that later, but willpower, when you're just white knuckling it and starving yourself and you're hungry and you're just trying to, like if you're hungry and you need to eat, maybe you're hungry because maybe your body didn't get everything it needed. And then trying to out exercise a poor diet or an imbalanced lifestyle. So being completely stressed, never eating, eating crap, and then just trying to burn a lot of calories. There are people I love on YouTube that are fitness people, but they say, oh, this can help you burn calories. And I don't know, I just don't find that to be really a useful measure. Actually, when you exercise, you create hormonal changes that actually shift your physiology, but it's more complex than just calories in, calories out. And then people who tell you to eat for fuel and not for pleasure, I completely disagree with that. And I'm going to get to that later. We're supposed to have pleasure. Like if we don't have pleasure, it causes health problems, actually. I'll get to that later. Okay, and then any kind of fad diet. I like the paleo diet within reason, although, there are certain things that can create imbalances if you do it a certain way. Plus, I think it's okay to eat certain grains. I prefer gluten-free. I don't know. I just don't think there's one diet that's right for every single human. Some people do well being vegan or vegetarian. Other people get really sick doing that. But eating factory farm meat is really bad for everybody. So it's just, it's not one size fits all. Okay, and so even a lot of the natural world where you just completely starve your body of carbs, men tend to do better on keto, or I call it carb starving. Women tend to lose hair, get anxiety and insomnia from it, and it tends not to be sustainable long term. So there are ways to play with that. If you really are diabetic or have cancer or something like that, there might be some value, but that's a little complicated topic too. But anytime you're starving yourself or cutting out a major category of nutrients we've evolved to eat for hundreds of thousands of years, you're probably going to create some kind of imbalance if you try to do it for too long, and your body will probably fight back, trying to protect you. And then also when people are using fasts and cleanses that are not well designed or they're poorly timed to force their body to lose weight. I actually do work with certain kinds of cleansing or detox strategies. Often they usually involve eating. Fasting isn't bad. You can fast, but if you're doing it kind of as covert anorexia, it's not a good idea. So usually if you're stressed out in your nervous system, you're under too much stress, usually skipping meals is hard on you. If you're pretty grounded and even keeled and you're not really running on a lot of stress hormones, then something like intermittent fasting or doing an occasional fast is fine. So fasting is okay in context, but it's not a substitute for a solid base and a really nurturing lifestyle that works with your body and your psychology. And then a lot of these magic bullet skinny teas and protein shakes or fat burning supplements, or like I have a friend, she's doing a cleanse and they're like, oh, fat burning tea, and it has cinnamon and cayenne and whatever. And those things can help with blood sugar and some part of metabolism, but if you have it with caffeine front cereal, it's not really going to do anything for you now, is it? So it's just some of these health claims. So some of these things are great. I love apple cider vinegar. I love a lot of teas and herbal teas and things like that. And there's certain great kinds of smoothies and shakes. Like, I'm not against those things, but just be careful about hitting yourself when you're not addressing the big picture. Okay. So there are these things called meta-analysis that will study many studies over many, many years. And they show that 5 to 10% of body weight can be lost on almost any diet, even a low-fat diet. But the majority of people gain it back, and they often gain back more than they lost. But one thing I forgot to say about low fat is most research shows, with a few genetic exceptions, that there's an inverse relationship between fat consumption and body fat. So meaning the more fat you eat, assuming it's good quality fat, not inflammatory or toxic, the less body fat you tend to have. And there are fats that actually help you build muscle and burn fat, like fats from grass-fed animals, things like that. If you're vegan, then you can disregard that. But the majority of people gain the weight back, and yeah, I already said that, often more than they lost. So that's what happens in almost every single study ever designed. And then there's more research showing that yo-yo dieting, meaning you lose weight, gain it back, and then some, and then lose weight, gain it back, and then some. When you keep yo-yoing, it actually makes your health worse. So there's evidence to suggest that repeatedly losing and gaining weight is linked to cardiovascular disease, stroke, diabetes, and altered immune function, meaning it can lead to autoimmune diseases and, weaken your immune system, all kinds of stuff. And so it's the same article was saying that, they felt that you would have been better off if you had never dieted in the first place. And by dieting, I'm not talking about lifestyle change, I'm talking about calorie restriction and cutting out major nutrient groups, things like that. Okay. So the point I'm trying to get across is that in most cases, people don't fail diets. Diets fail people. Also, there's a lot more to weight loss than just food. Food's only one part of the equation. So the problem is our focus is wrong. We're looking through this really narrow lens, and we're missing the big picture of how nature works. We're not looking at how evolutionary biology works. So we're not looking at the root causes of weight gain. We're focused, oops, that slide's messed up. We're focused on losing weight and not on gaining health. And then our strategies aren't biocompatible, meaning they don't work with our biology, and they're not bio-individual. They don't work with our individual like genetics and psychology and microbial balance. We're all completely unique, and we change over time. So do our needs. All right. So I practice something called functional lifestyle medicine, and I also do patient advocacy. So I help people make medical decisions. But functional lifestyle medicine, hold on, let's just start with what functional medicine is. Functional medicine is a movement of doctors and scientists who want to look at the root causes of conditions instead of just covering them up with just covering up symptoms. And you look at the whole person, you see everyone is unique. And usually medications and surgeries are a last resort, not a first resort, unless it's like a life, like if someone's in the ER or ICU, and then, save their life. But in general, especially for managing chronic illness, preventing reversing chronic illness, there's a tendency to want to work more with, using, supplements and herbs and lifestyle and that kind of thing. But often clinicians, even functional medicine, integrative doctors, naturopaths, acupuncturists, they don't have time to really work with people on how they're living their life, their emotions, their sleep, all these things. They don't really have the bandwidth to get into nitty gritty. So functional medicine in principle, it's called that because it restores functionality by addressing the root causes and not just covering up symptoms. So we're restoring function. We're not just, for example, if your house is on fire and the smoke alarm goes off, if you take the battery out of the smoke alarm, will your house stop burning? No. If you're having pain and you just take a painkiller and you don't ask, why am I in pain in the first place? You don't fix the problem. Are you going to get better or worse over time? You're going to get worse. So the idea is symptoms mean something. They're a request for nurture. What do they mean? What is the body trying to tell you? Symptoms, sensations are how nature communicate with, our bodies communicate with us. And one of the things I love about functional medicine, it's very interdisciplinary. It's inclusive of, Western doctors, Eastern doctors, integrated holistic, whatever. It's just the whole, body workers, mindfulness practices, meditation, blah, blah, blah. It's welcoming of all different religions and backgrounds and whatever. It's very inclusive. And again, we're looking at biocompatible, works with your biology, bioindividual, works with your individual personality and biology. And then what I've found, my experience has been, is that this approach tends to be safer and get far better results for chronic degenerative conditions. For example, I have a client and she not only lost 37 pounds, we weren't actually focusing on her weight. We were focusing on, her heart was failing. She had a side effect of chemo that, which was the problem in the first place. Why did she get cancer? But the chemo damaged her heart, and she was supposed to have a defibrillator surgically put in. And in many cases with her condition, you have to have a heart transplant. So by focusing on healing her on a cellular level, she was able to avoid needing any surgery, no defibrillator, no heart transplant, and she lost 37 pounds, and she's still in process. She's still working on it. But so anyway, that's not something. Her cardiologist, was flabbergasted. Like, he's never seen that before. That's one of my favorite things about my job, is that doctors are shocked by what's possible. Okay, so that's the functional medicine part. Lifestyle medicine is, what's lifestyle? It's, a lot of people think it's just what you eat or diet and exercise, but it's all of our daily habitual thoughts and actions. Every thought we have changes our physiology, and every sensation we experience influences our thoughts, our decisions, our behaviors. So lifestyle is the sum total of our daily habitual thoughts and actions, plus our physical and social environment. So the people in our lives, also, like if you have toxic mold in your house, or you have lead paint or lead in your water, or, you have a lot of, I don't know, whatever the thing is, anything in your environment, any person, place, or thing, any of your daily thoughts and actions, this all makes up how you've engineered your life, or how your life has been created. And that has more influence on your health than genetics. So there's a lot of research showing that over 90% of chronic illness, I don't care if you're talking about autoimmune disease, heart disease, chronic pain, or if you're talking about weight gain, or if you're talking about depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, like so many of these things, you may have genetic tendencies, but what will usually flip the switch is going to be something in your life, in your environment. And that shapes your cellular biology, including your gene expression. That's something called epigenetics. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make here is that if we want to heal our bodies, we have to heal our lives. No doctor or pill can do that for you. Okay, so this is, some of you know my mom. This is my mom. So she's maintained 100-pound weight loss and a measurable health gain. She actually overcame Crohn's disease, and actually the weight loss wasn't from the Crohn's, it was actually from lifestyle change. So it's virtually unheard of. If you may remember earlier me saying, statistically, it's almost impossible for a person following the kind of diet that are done in scientific studies to maintain health loss. And it's been about 9 years, or getting close to 10 years. It's been almost a decade. She's kept this 100 pounds off. This was after decades of dieting. She spent like 50 years dieting and failing at it. Ever since she was a child, she was overweight. And she just got to believe that it wasn't possible for her, that she just was defective. And that was her identity. I'm an overeater. I'm a food addict. By the way, I don't think we're food addicts. I think we become addicted to over-processed foods. I call it pharmaceuticalized food, like white sugar and a lot of the chemicals in food, MSG and things are addictive. So are artificial sweeteners. So I don't think we're addicted to real food. We may have behavioral habits, like, we say we're addicted to shopping or the internet or whatever. There's some addictive mechanisms, but I don't consider food the same as a drug unless we pharmaceuticalize food. So anyway, I'm really proud of my mom. I think she's awesome. And notice she's not super skinny now. Like she didn't get like, you know, bathing suit model skinny or anything like that, but like she's kept 100 pounds off for almost a decade. That's amazing. So you may not necessarily get like super, super skinny, and you may, I don't know, but the point is to be as healthy as you possibly can be. And then I don't have really good pictures from this time in my life, and they're buried in storage somewhere, but I have these two. They're terrible quality. They're scans of like, I don't know, actual pictures, you know, when you used to develop film. Anyway, the one on the left, I was 175 pounds. The one on the right, I was 120 pounds. And then I got so skinny, I had no muscle. I never worked out before. I hadn't made friends with exercise yet. That was later. But then I had to put muscle on. So 120 is way too skinny. So anyway, but my point is that I didn't go on a diet. I had actually tried the low fat diet, and that's how I got up to 175 pounds. I was on a low fat diet because I was like 150 pounds. And then I kept getting bigger and bigger with the yo-yo dieting and the low fat starving and all that stuff, and white knuckling it and willpower. And it just kept getting worse. So I just thought I was genetically doomed to have a weight problem because most of my family does. So then I went to Spain, and I just lived in Spain, and I ate Spanish food, and I walked around and partied a lot, and you know, whatever. I probably wasn't as healthy, nowhere near as healthy as I am now, but I just stopped living like an American. I started living life more. I ate radically better food, moved my body more, and enjoyed life. I wasn't focused. I didn't even have a scale. I didn't weigh myself. I didn't actually know, believe it or not, I had no idea how much weight I'd lost until my Spanish friends told me my clothes are too big, and they made me go shopping and buy fitted clothes. And I had no idea. I didn't even notice because I was just too busy having a good time to even think about my weight. So that's kind of the spirit of what I want for people, is just have such a good time taking care of yourself, nurturing yourself, designing your life in a way that makes you feel better and better and better. And then just, oh, wow, and then the weight's just coming off. One of my recent clients said, you know, she's lost 20 pounds pretty quickly. Some of it, well, I'll get to it later. But anyway, she says, I don't feel like I'm even doing anything, you know, and I'm just having a good life. So that's actually possible. That's actually the best way. It's the most functional way. So a lot of people feel like they've tried everything, or they don't trust themselves. Like, I've dieted so many times, I never stick with it. I don't trust that I'm going to do this. And so trusting we're capable is a super important part, because if you don't believe you're capable, then you have one foot on the brake, even if one foot's on the accelerator. So mindset's so important. So this is a woman, I actually only met with her once or twice. And I don't really do that. I do programs with people, but I did this as a favor for her son. And then she did do she actually did do a 4-week program with me. So I take that back. But this quote was after we had only met, I think, one time, maybe we met twice. But anyway, it was after our first meeting. And she said, I've lost 10 pounds easily since our first meeting. I'm totally motivated to permanently change my eating because everything we discussed on our first phone call worked perfectly. And I have been looking for answers from many sources most of my adult life. Why has no one ever taught me this stuff before? And I actually checked in with her before my last presentation of this material, which was just a couple weeks ago. And she said she still kept it off and even has traveled and, you know, been in a lot of social situations. And she's really proud of herself. I'm really proud of her too. Oh, and she had dieted for decades, and then she lost some weight on a low carb diet, but then she plateaued. And what I helped her with broke the plateau, but she's at a good weight now. And that's actually her before picture. It's not an after picture. I don't have a picture of what she looks like now. So these are just some testimonials I have on my website. I actually have a lot more. I just haven't gotten people's permission to use their pictures and that kind of thing. So these are the people whose permission I have. This man on the left, he lost his first 8 pounds by just chewing slower and not drinking ice drinks with his meals. And he just started being more present, because if you eat when you're stressed out, it can actually cause more weight gain. So just eating in a more relaxed way, chewing his food better, that's the only change he made. He attended a workshop I taught, and he just did that. And then a month later, for this next part of the workshop, he came back and he lost 8 pounds, and all he had done was be more present with his food. So that's something that really stands out. And he's kept this weight off. Like I still run into him. It's somewhere around 20 pounds, maybe more, I don't know, but he's still in really great shape. And then this next one in the middle, she really thought that a lot of her aches and pains were, she didn't hire me to lose weight. She just had a lot of aches and pains, didn't feel so well. And so she thought that was just normal aging, and then realized it wasn't when she started to make changes. And then she said that it was a natural and unexpected weight loss for her. And then I have a quote from this woman on the right in a little bit. It's really sweet. I'll save it for the end. So one of the things with the weight loss studies I was mentioning is that they fail their subjects and they don't research people who sustain weight loss, but they should. So they're trying to kind of figure out, okay, would this work? Would this work? Would this work? And what they're not doing, which is not very scientific, is going and finding people who've actually succeeded and being, what are you doing? And trying to replicate that, right? And so what am I doing different? What that's working? It's evolutionary, my dear. So I have a background in medical anthropology. So I think very much from an evolutionary biology standpoint, like how did we evolve to live? What did, and then what are we doing that's not working with that? So if you think about it, wild animals are not obese. They don't go on diets. They don't calorie count. They don't have tracking apps. They don't exhibit metabolic syndrome. So there's a reason for that. Obesity affects 40% of African elephants in captivity. And just like in humans, excess fat in elephants contributes to development of heart disease, arthritis, a shorter lifespan, and infertility. And by the way, infertility in our species is getting to be a big deal right now. Okay, and then I also am fascinated with other cultures and how people lived before they became industrialized, before we were in captivity. So indigenous people also don't tend to become obese or exhibit metabolic syndrome, meaning like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, that kind of stuff, autoimmune diseases. They don't go on diets and they don't count calories or count carbs. So, they're living in alignment with their evolutionary biology. So they're wonderful things that as industrialized society we developed. I'm not against those things, but we have some disconnects, things that we just make changes and go, this is cool, what if we do this, what if we do this? And we've kind of gradually moved away from some things that are more important than we ever realized, and they're making more drastic changes in our physiology than we realize. Like we don't walk barefoot on the ground that much anymore, and that there's actually a purpose to that. We don't engage with soil microbes like we used to. There's a purpose to that. We don't get enough sun sometimes. We're not still enough sometimes. We have these ideas of productivity that never end, that just haunt us, where we're constantly behind and we live life like we're chasing something or being chased. So these things all make a difference. So nature is not something outside of us we go to camping or on a hike. We are nature. And so the problem is right now, the way we're thinking and living doesn't work with our evolutionary biology. So what are some examples? I just gave them actually. Like we're indoors too much, we're sedentary too much, we don't move enough, we don't fully engage with our bodies. A lot of us don't have enough like touch or human interaction, eye contact with real humans. It's lovely to see you guys on this video, but I also love seeing real humans. And the pandemic has had a huge impact on people, especially people who are single or live alone. So we're just sitting in front of these electronics, not enough sunshine, not enough connection to the earth, not eating food made of the same molecules our bodies are made out of. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. All this stuff causes weight gain. So you don't have to go live, in an indigenous environment or whatever, but there are just very specific things we can do that will put us more in alignment with how we evolved to live so we can adapt. So here's one of my pet peeves is when people are told, oh, people who are overweight just need to eat less. It sets me off. Like, I'm just like, it makes me so mad, because if they knew how many people are starving themselves and can't lose weight, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So what happens when we calorie restrict, when we just eat less, or we just try to eat tiny amounts of food, or we habituate ourselves to hardly even have an appetite? And what ends up happening is you decrease your metabolism. Now, your metabolism isn't how fast you burn calories or burn fat. Your metabolism, burning fat's part of it, but your metabolism is the sum total of all chemical processes happening in your body at any given time. So, it's much more complex. So when you calorie restrict, you slow down or imbalance this process. You also increase hunger. So your body's like, oh, there's not enough food, we're not getting enough nutrients. Let's yell louder. Let's get hungrier so we can get this person to eat because we need nutrition. And so then it increases hunger. It also causes muscle and bone loss. So you basically literally start eating your own tissues. You're living off your own tissues. So if you're vegan or vegetarian, then that's not very vegan or vegetarian. Sorry, that might have been a tasteless shift, but I couldn't resist. So, and then it increases stress hormones. And when we're stressed, this is something to really remember. When we're stressed out and we have these stress hormones released, that actually triggers an insulin response. Insulin is a hormone that tells your body to store fat. It also gets it gets glucose out of the blood, and gets nutrients to cells and things like that. It's a little more complex than that, but in a lot of ways, insulin is a fat storage hormone, and it's directly linked to stress. Also, stress triggers inflammation, so which leads to a lot of damage and disease. So stress is one of the biggest causes of weight gain, which not so. Yes, maybe you were binge eating during the pandemic, but also just the stress of it without changing your diet at all can cause weight gain. And so there are a lot of techniques for modulating or calming down your nervous system that can become part of your lifestyle to make us more resilient to emotional stress, because we can't make the external world change very much. We have some control, but our internal response is we have more control over that than I think we realize. And then calorie restricting makes your body think you're starving. So it fights tooth and nail to protect you by preserving body fat. So when your body won't let go of fat, it's because it doesn't think you're safe, and it's trying to protect you, because your body is your best friend. Your body is your best friend. Everything it's doing, every single thing, every pain, every pound is your body trying to love you, protect you, and make you safe. Calorie restriction causes fatigue, brain fog, yucky moods, weight loss yo-yos and plateaus, which we know cause more health problems, and then loss of self-confidence and shame. It makes you believe, well, I failed again. I guess this will never change. I guess this is just how I have to be forever. And it's very defeating. So please, if you get nothing else out of this presentation, please stop worrying about calories. Like, please don't calorie count, don't calorie restrict, do not starve yourself. What I would like you to learn is how to balance your meals so that you're full and satiated and you feel good and you get pleasure from your food and you feel great. And and you're not struggling with appetite control issues. And then if you do have more complex metabolic imbalances, there's deeper troubleshooting that can happen. So basically the pattern with calorie restriction is you lose some weight initially, you plateau, you feel terrible, then you relapse, and then you regain what you lost, maybe more, right? And I don't know, it's familiar to me. I don't know about you guys, but it's familiar to me. Okay, so why does this happen? Why do we get stuck? So there's a theory called set point theory. Some people call it body fat set point theory. Some people call it metabolic set point theory. But it's the idea that we have a set point that our bodies to maintain something called homeostasis, which is like a form of balance. So that if there's more food, you don't necessarily gain weight, but if there's not quite as much food, you don't lose too much weight and get too thin, which is, evolutionarily speaking, historically has been a bigger threat. If you look at this from an evolutionary biology standpoint, obesity has not really been an issue. So we haven't really had to evolve a lot of mechanisms to combat that. We've had to evolve mechanisms to combat starvation. So when we're stressed out, your body thinks maybe there's a famine, maybe I need to hold on to some body fat, store some energy for the future, and become more efficient. So those of you who have, the more you gain weight, the more efficient your body is. Like your body, you're actually set up that if there was famine, your body's set up to tolerate it better, even though obviously I don't want you going without food. So anyway, so it's just, and we've evolved to all have some variety. We're all a little different. Not everybody's that way, because diversity in biology creates more probability that the species will survive. So the thing is, so we've evolved mechanisms to stabilize our weight and protect us from famine. But the thing is, we haven't had time to evolve protection from dangerous degrees of excess, which is what we've been doing, especially by pharmaceuticalizing sugar, refining oils, all kinds of things, and just all these additives and preservatives and pesticides and fertilizers that all do damage to our body chemistry. So think of belly fat or obesity or weight struggles as dysregulation or confusion of your set point. So if you're having trouble losing weight, you're feeling stuck, whether you eat more, eat less, it doesn't seem to budge. It means your set point is not budging because it's trying to protect you because it is confused, which happened to a lot of people during the pandemic, whether you binge ate or not. So how do set points get confused? I kind of already pointed to that, but we have to look at the root causes of belly fat. And then if you look at the causes, you can usually work backwards to get to the solutions. So again, I'm gonna say this again, weight gain is chemical, it's not caloric. It has to do with your body chemistry, the molecules, the atoms, the chemistry that's happening, your chemistry set. And that, when that's out of whack, that's why you have weight gain. It's not about calories, it's about chemicals. So I like to use the metaphor of a symphony, like we have a cellular symphony and we have these set points, and the cellular symphony is what regulates our set points. So I'm going to use some of these words that may or may not be familiar to you. Just try to get the gist of it. We're made up of cells, right? We're made up of organs that are in tissues that are made up of cells. Those cells are made of molecules. Molecules are clusters of different chemicals, and those chemicals are made of atoms. And then actually, if you take it further, the atoms are actually made of frequency and space that may have some degree of consciousness, that or intelligence that's connecting it. Unified field theory of physics kind of thing. I'm not a physicist, so, but the point is we have to really look at the big picture of nature, look at, we need to zoom out, look at the big picture, but we also need to zoom in to look at the big picture and look at our biochemistry. So hormones play a huge role in weight gain. So, for example, some of the ones that are most important for understanding the weight issue is insulin, which is, and blood sugar, right? I think most of us have some sense of that. I said insulin's a fat surge hormone, it's more than that, but insulin, blood sugar, that's a big deal. That's that's why so many people try to just target the carb thing, because, that's trying to get at that piece of the puzzle. Then there are stress hormones, because stress hormones trigger insulin. And here's something interesting. So testosterone, it actually helps us build muscle and burn fat. Stress hormones tear down muscle and make us gain fat. Our adrenals, that are the glands that make our stress hormones, sit on our kidneys, and they actually make the precursors to testosterone. When you are stressed out, your body will prioritize stress hormones first and testosterone later. So the more stressed out we are, then the more we can lose testosterone, and thus our ability to build muscle and burn fat. So that's just one example. Thyroid, I think we know that's like the thermostat of your body. If your thyroid's too low, it can cause weight gain. Too high, it can cause people to lose too much weight and become too thin. But you don't want hyperthyroid, I promise. So let's see. Yeah, and then estrogens plays a big role, whether you're male or female. Estrogen's made in our adipose fat tissue, or fat tissue. And then there are toxic forms of estrogen that come from our environment. There are our true body's estrogens that can cause weight problems too. So getting rid of those, and that plays out in the liver, and it plays out in your microbiome, or the microbes of your gut. So you don't have to remember all of that. What I'm trying to tell you is that the balance of your hormones, it's like a delicate symphony. It's like an orchestra that you want to play in tune. When it plays out of tune, it doesn't just sound bad. It makes you feel like crap. Neurotransmitters are the chemicals that affect your mood and emotions. So if those are out of whack, you may not make the best decisions or have the wherewithal to take care of yourself or feel like life is even worth living. And then, the way your cells are functioning or not functioning, not just your human cells, but the microbe cells. So if you've heard of a microbiome, we're made of more microbes than humans. The microbe cells are really tiny, and they're all over, not just in your gut, but in your, any of your mucosal membranes in your skin. They're all over. And so we get as much DNA from our microbes as from our human cells. So if you're taking a bunch of antibiotics in your life, which I did, my dad was a doctor, he meant well, antibiotics can cause weight gain. So if you mess up your microbes, or by eating too much sugar or over sterilizing, that kind of thing, it can affect your weight. Immune function. So a lot of times inflammation can trigger cascades that lead to weight gain. Edema, a lot of what we think of as fat is actually fluid. And I'll get to that in a second. And then our brain, the metabolic set point is thought to reside in your brain. And neuroplasticity is the science of studying how we can change our brain to change a lot of things in our life, including our body function, including our metabolic set point. And then epigenetics, that's how we can turn certain genes on and off that may regulate our body fat storage. And actually, this is something really interesting. Actually, your microbiome, the microbes, have such a strong influence over your metabolism, including fat metabolism, that there are experiments where they'll take an obese mouse and inoculate a thin mouse with the fecal matter of the obese mouse. It's called a fecal transplant, and the thin mouse will gain weight. So there's a bacteria, you don't have to remember this either. It's a bacteria called Akkermansia muciniphila, and it's been highly studied, and it's thought to play a really important role in body fat. And so if you've ever wondered why there's some people that can just eat so much crap and they're still thin, and then there are people who even just look at a carbohydrate or just look at food and feel like they gain weight, a lot of it is in your microbiome. It's in your microbes. It's also in your hormones in your brain and blah, blah, blah. So I don't expect you to remember every single one of these details, but I want you to understand you're made of this complex cellular symphony. And when you disrupt those mechanisms, the cells play out of tune and we get physically and mentally ill. And body fat is just a symptom of that. So there's something called the invisibles. It's all the chemicals, the stressors, they're things we can't look at and see. They cause immunological changes like inflammation and edema, fluid retention, microbial changes, genetic, epigenetic changes, hormonal changes, damage to our tissues, so our organs don't work correctly, but also belly fat and weight gain. So remember, when you sit down and look at a plate of food, think about what are the invisibles? Like, where did this come from? Where was it grown? Who handled it? What was sprayed on it, put in it? That's going to affect you. So I have this metaphor of a bucket. It's like we all have different buckets of how much we can tolerate. And when your bucket fills, so much stress, so many toxins, so much, like you have this bucket of tolerance. And when it spills over, your body's like, your body can't keep correcting. It's like your body's just constantly, zapping cancer cells and balancing and rebalancing. And it's just it has all these plates spinning there, and your body's just constantly doing everything it can to take care of you. And when we keep abusing ourselves in ways that we just think are normal because our culture has normalized self-destruction, then your bucket spills over and your body just can't keep up anymore. I mean, I sometimes feel like I can't keep up. Your body has that same issue too, right? So again, this is a lot of words on this slide. You're not really supposed to put this many words on a slide, but I just want you to see, like, what does this mean in your life? So, I mean, I think, people are so focused on diet and exercise, they're not aware of the different chemical exposure we're creating on a daily basis and how it affects our hormones or our microbiome. Stress starting from our childhood, traumatic events, relationships, work, all kinds, not enough pleasure, not enough play, not enough sleep, sitting on our butts too much, being disconnected from nature, lack of purpose. Malnutrition isn't just having no food, it's poor quality and balance of nutrients. We're not getting the nutrients we need on a molecular level. Or we're getting too much of the bad stuff and not enough of the good stuff. We're eating too fast. We're not timing our food very well. We're not fitting our unique needs. We're trying to do what our friend's doing, and maybe that doesn't work for us. And then dysbiosis means an imbalance of the microbes in our body. And that's caused by all of the above. And also poor immunity, antibiotics, over-sterilization, not enough time outdoors or interacting with dirt, that kind of thing. And then we can also get it from passing things back and forth, like through human contact or water or foodborne illness. So this is just like a collage, because those are a bunch of words, but this is kind of pictures of things that could be sources of disharmony. These are things that can imbalance your metabolic set point. It can confuse your body and cause it to hold on to weight. So even just like staying up late on your cell phone, which is something I've gotten in and out. That was one of my bad habits over the pandemic. I felt lonely, and so I got on my phone a lot. Anyway, so I break that habit. There's some toxic mold here, just being sedentary, blah, 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 all kinds of things, sugar, cleaning products, pharmaceuticals, blah, 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 perfumes, makeup, blah, blah, cigarettes, peeling paint that could have lead in it, this guy's spraying pesticides. I don't know if you can see them. Anyway, that kind of stuff. Okay. Oops, I skipped a picture. So this is a picture. I mean, it's kind of old, but I accidentally ate something that had, so I'm intolerant of gluten and cowdairy, and I can't remember which one I got exposed to. It was one of them. I think it might have been cowdairy. I don't know. Anyway, I accidentally got exposed to something in food I didn't know had it. And then I just poofed up like that. I wasn't sticking my stomach out. Like that was as flat as I could get my stomach on the left because it was just so bloated. I was full of so much fluid. So that's what your body does when it's trying to protect you. So if you have that kind of bloated, taut kind of tummy, that could just be fluid retention. Even sometimes of the soft jiggly stuff can be fluid retention. And then on the right, that was like 2 days later. And I wasn't like overly poofing or sucking to make a dramatic picture. I mean, that's just really what happened to my body. And I remember when I started cutting out certain inflammatory foods, I lost like 8 or 10 pounds almost immediately just from the loss of fluid, the edema. So you may be carrying more fluid than fat. And so this is tied to gut issues, immune issues that can be healed using functional medicine, functional lifestyle medicine. So how do you unconfuse your set point? I use this metaphor of a combination lock. So a lot of you have tried pieces of it that were good. Like you've tried this, you've made efforts, but maybe you just didn't line up all the numbers so you could unlock those pounds, right? And so that's kind of one of the reasons I actually did Unlock Those Lockdown Pounds is the title for this, is because we get this set point that's confused and it locks in. And if we want to open that lock, we not only need to get all, for lock, you have to open, you have to line up all the right numbers and in the right order. So there's like an order of operations and in a certain combination where you have to approach things from all sides. And when you hit it from all sides and in the right order, boom, you're unlocked. And it can take tinkering because we're all a little different. Okay. So this graphic is just meant to, at the risk of overwhelming you with too many words, I want you to understand that some of this stuff that doesn't look that important is more important than we realize. Like microbes play a more important role than calories. Things like that. Like our mindset is the biggest block to moving forward, always, because it's like, I don't have time, I don't have money, it's too hard, blah, 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 like all that, we all do it. That's your first big obstacle, always. And then if we're not dealing with stress, if we don't have ways to help our nervous system deal with life better, which our culture does not teach us those tools. Our culture teaches us to be stressed out and sick and then spend money on products that like we're supposed to fix it, but don't. And then connect, and mindfulness, I just mean things that are presence practices like meditation, things like that. You don't have to be go live in a cave and be some great yogi. Just, to me, meditation is you just sit and breathe and feel. You empty your bucket and just, reset. Connection and support, we need each other. If we don't have that, then it's really hard to make these changes. Nourishment, like not just shoving any old thing in our mouth, but really being strategic and intentional about how we feed ourselves and making sure pleasure is a huge part of it. Scheduling self-nurture, we have to make it as important as doctor's appointments or work appointments. Understanding detoxification, some cleanses work, a lot of them don't. But it should not just be something you do twice a year. It should be a part of your daily life, having a life that supports your body. Your body's always detoxifying, so you just want to make sure you live in a way that supports that. Pleasure and play, that's important. I'm going to get to that in a second, but that's actually important for your physiology. For dopamine, if you don't have dopamine, you can develop Parkinson's. If you don't have dopamine, it's hard to coordinate your muscle movements and to even just walk or exist in your body. Like we need that. A relationship with nature, again, soil, sun, a lot of things. But yeah, and then joyful movement. Like the word, I call that, instead of exercise, like exercise sounds so heavy. I like to work out or be fit, but I used to hate it. I was like allergic to it. I hated heat growing up. Hated it. And then now I teach yoga and, just 1 class a week for fun. And I love fitness. I love being active, but I never liked it before. It always felt crappy. But not moving because you hate your body and you're trying to burn calories and lose fat, but you're moving because you're enjoying being in a human body and getting it movement. It's like a nutrient. Hormones, this stuff gets more technical. This is where people tend to need a lot more support. Well, the food, people, it's so confusing. The whole diet is so confusing. So that's where I like to offer a lot of support. I still like to offer support with all these realms because we have trouble giving ourselves permission to prioritize these things. But the hormones, your gut brain microbiome balance, and your immune system, that kind of stuff, in your brain, like that's really important. That's an important piece. And there are a lot of things you can do with your lifestyle, also supplements and herbs to rebalance that. And you wouldn't believe how much better you can feel. It's so cool. And then the weight loss is a natural side effect. So one of the questions I get is, I've been on these roller coasters of gaining weight, losing weight for so long. How do I get off the roller coaster? And to me, the answer is falling in love. You have to fall in love with a lifestyle of nurture. You have to craft a lifestyle that you love and you're jazzed about, and you're in love with it. You're in love with it. You're not on a diet. You're in love with your life. And then you stick with it because you love it. You don't need willpower to do something you love. So how do we do that? Pleasure is the key. You've probably heard me talk about this a lot. I don't mean like destructive pleasure. I mean pleasures that build us up. So we're wired for pleasure. If we're stressed out and we don't have enough pleasure, which not enough pleasure is a stressor, then it increases our appetite. So we stress eat, decreases nutrient absorption because we're not making enough gastric juices to absorb our nutrients. It imbalances our hormones. I've explained that already. Lowers dopamine, which helps you, I call it dopamine, helps you feel like positive about the future or good about your life. Serotonin, GABA, serotonin affects mood, peristalsis, focus, concentration, brain function. GABA is like a happy calming, it's a chemical that helps calm you down. Meditation can actually increase GABA. So things you do, how you breathe, how you move, how you think, how you eat, how you sleep, all these things change the chemistry of your body. And then also not having a pleasure causes stress that we make poor decisions. When you're stressed out, your limbic system dominant, means your lower mammal brain is just thinking about me feel good now. It's not thinking about the long-term implications of a decision. I'm just gonna eat this because I'm hungry now and screw it. I call it F-it eating. And then it increases the risk of addiction and self-destructive behaviors, like anywhere from like being addicted to your phone all the way to like really super destructive things. So we need to heal our relationship with pleasure. We need to change from short-term thinking to long-term thinking. Which means we need to have a calmer nervous system so we can make better decisions and fill our lives, not focus on what I can't have, but fill your life, crowd out the bad stuff with good stuff. Just fill your life with things that delight you and support you and feel good. So we upgrade our pleasures to healthy highs is what I call them. So non-destructive pleasures. This is a need, not a luxury. Pleasure is a need, not a luxury. We need to get rid of shame around wanting to feel good or wanting to experience pleasure in our bodies and emotions. And we need to reframe the silly idea of productivity. It is not productive to destroy your life. It is not productive to make yourself sick. It is not productive to be miserable. So this is something I'm having to still reframe because I was taught, my dad used to say, this isn't a hotel, there's work to be done, because he grew up on a farm where they didn't have enough food and they were struggling for just survival. And so that got wired into his brain. He passed it on to me, and it's a big part of our culture. And we just need more of them. Like, get creative, start thinking of, like, I was visiting some friends and they had one of those things that's these little wires that you like put on your head and it kind of tickles your scalp. And I was like, oh, this feels so good. You know, I love, you know, on a cool evening, getting a warm robe out of the dryer. Like, I mean, there's just so many ways we can appreciate and feel pleasure that don't make us sick or gain weight. And also food, there's so many good foods. There's so much delicious food that doesn't cause weight gain. Yeah, and then we just need to practice and practice until we rewire our brains and it becomes second nature. All right, so we're kind of coming toward the tail end of this. So I call this healthy hedonism living. It's the pursuit of non-destructive pleasures to heal yourself. So I call this also the non-diet, like diets. So these may not even be the best pictures. I just happen to have them on my website. Actually, the pizza one I don't. I should. Anyway, you can eat like this, and there's like, you can eat pizza, you can eat hamburgers, you can eat all kinds. Yes, you can eat salads, but you know what I've noticed? Like when I'm looking for images to use, like stock images, everything, if you put in the word healthy, everyone's eating, it's always skinny girls eating salads and fruit. And that's it, or just an apple or whatever. And it's like you don't see cooked food, you don't see a variety of nutrients. I mean, what about like curries and soups and stews and I don't know, there's just so many yummy foods. There's so many balanced desserts you can make. Like if your dessert has enough protein and fat, uses better sweeteners, blah, blah, blah. There are all these different ways, these better quality ingredients, like organic ingredients, then actually it will be kind of more of a neutral influence on you. Okay, so that's me plying you with lots of information. And now I'm going to give you 3 tips that you can take and start to apply to your life. So these are 3 things for you to try. And I'm going to start with detoxing your thoughts. So there's something called cognitive reframing, where you start paying attention to your limiting beliefs. You identify what is my belief, and then reframe what would be a more empowering truth. And then you rewire your brain when you repeatedly look for evidence of your new belief over and over. So I'm going to give you an example. If I don't eat what everyone else is eating, I'll feel left out. Okay, so that's why I'm going to just keep eating what everyone else is eating, or wait for other people to change so that I can change, right? That's very disempowering. It's very limiting, because now you're tied to everybody else. And so, like I said, 6 out of 10 Americans has a debilitating disease, 4 out of 10 have 2 or more. So if you do what everyone else is doing, you will be included in their disease process too. You'll get those same diseases most likely. If you don't do what they're doing, you will be left out. You'll be left out of disease. You'll be left out of diabetes. You'll be left out of obesity. You'll be left out of cancer. You'll be left out of increasing the risk of all these really horrible things that make you feel terrible and can ruin your life. So is it that bad to be reframe? Is it that bad to be left out? Or will you be left out, or are you opting out? Are you opting for something better? And you don't have to preach or be better than anyone. You can just pursue what you want, create what you want, and you will start attracting other people into your life who support it. Or without preaching, if you do it, you could just inspire other people. They'll notice and get curious. Like people around me, every time I've had housemates, they all lose weight just living with me, and I don't even work with them. They're not my clients. I don't preach it. I don't even give them dietary advice. They just kind of model after me and copy things. Not always, but that's happened so many times. So what is the more empowering truth, right? And then look for evidence of your new belief over and over and over and over again. Another one would be, I don't trust myself, or I can't, I've lost weight and then I gain weight, lost weight and I gain weight, and I can never maintain it. So like, what's the point of even trying again? But what I've noticed with a lot of people is I used to think I had to convince people I was capable of helping them for them to let me help them. But what I realized is the biggest obstacle isn't convincing people that I can help them, it's convincing people that they're capable of change. That's the biggest roadblock for most people. They just don't trust themselves to be capable. And then they'll do this thing where they go 100% on something really restrictive, and then they'll go all the way the other way back to how they were before. And then they just keep going to these extremes. And so I do find use in that 80-20 thing, where, you know, if 80% of the time you take really good care of yourself, and then 20% of the time you're a little more loosey-goosey, you're still going to make more progress forward than if you're trying to be 100% and then 0. And most people are kind of doing 20-80, right? 20% of the time they're doing what they really need to be doing for themselves, 80% of the time they're not. So if you just flipped the 80-20, you're doing 80% what you need, 20% a little wiggly, you're going to get more results than if you're 20-80, or you just try to go 100. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But what I want to say is that, and if you have a serious disease, like, you know, you have heart failure or cancer or something like that, then you do need to go full throttle, like 100% or 97.3 or something like that. But, and also that 3% or that 20% of off doesn't have to be that bad. Like, I sometimes will binge eat, but I eat like healthy junk food. Like even the things I binge on or overeat don't really make me gain weight or make me sick, because even my naughty things are pretty healthy. So if you make your naughty things healthy, then you're in a good place. Okay, food is medicine. So even though medicine can sound like not fun, but food can heal you. So start crowding out the bad stuff with really, the word high is in there twice, with delicious I call them high vibe foods, like high vibration, meaning like the molecules they're made of are actually going to elevate the balance of your biology and give you energy and make you feel good and also taste delicious. And then, so here's, you might want to do a screenshot of this or take a picture of it. Well, I'll send the recording so you can do that then. But here's a checklist I want you to make, and I want you to see if you can memorize this and make it a mental checklist when you put a meal together. So first I want you to upgrade your carbohydrates and make them have higher nutrients and make them lower glycemic, meaning they're not as processed, right? So I'm not saying never eat pasta. I eat gluten-free pasta. I eat gluten-free bread. I eat rice. I eat white rice. I eat honey, I eat dates, dates aren't really that refined. But anyway, but my carbohydrates are those refined carbohydrates a much smaller amount of the time than my other carbohydrates, which are like root vegetables and pumpkins and fruits and things like that. But I love quinoa, I love rice, I love things like that. And I do eat pasta, just not tons and tons of it every day. And then you want to upgrade your protein quality. Don't eat factory farm meat. That's one thing I think is universal. If you're going to eat animal products, do not eat things that came from a factory farm animal. Besides the fact that it's inhumane and cruel and ruining the environment, I also when you eat a stressed toxic animal, that interferes with your cellular biology. Those chemicals, those hormones, those neurotransmitters, those stress chemicals become part of your biology and they throw you off and make you sick. And that kind of seems like karma, like for when we don't respect nature, we don't respect other animals or each other, then it usually comes back in some way that doesn't really serve us anyway. So try to get grass-fed or pastured animal products, whatever the animal is, and with seafood, try to get wild seafood, sustainably caught, sustainably farmed. And I'm not a really fan of that either. Those animals aren't that healthy either. And then it can contaminate the areas of ocean they're cordoned off or where they're held as well. But even farmed salmon is really in disgusting water. There's lots of parasites and bacteria, and it's just really disgusting. And then they have to put a lot of toxic chemicals in the water and give them a lot of heavy antibiotics that you end up ingesting. So just if you eat animal products, which I do, please upgrade that quality. Get the best quality you can. And when you're in restaurants, unless it says it's grass-fed or organic or whatever the thing is, just assume it's factory farm. Upgrade your fat quality. When you're cooking with vegetable oils, use virgin or unrefined cooking oils or eat fats from healthy plants and animals. And by healthy plants, like organic. Eat more colorful, non-starchy vegetables. So non-starchy vegetables are the waxy, rubbery ones, like broccoli and asparagus and green beans and tomatoes and mushrooms and onions and garlic and things like that. So eat more color and more variety and more volume of non-starchy vegetables. And be adventurous with spices. Spices have so many compounds in them that they're selling in supplements. You can take these pills, or you can just eat this kind of food and get all those nutrients. And if your gut health is good, which I help people with, that's one of the top things I help people with, is improve your gut health. You'll absorb more of these nutrients. You'll be able to use them. They'll get to your cells. And supplements to me should be a temporary thing, not something that we have to depend heavily on forever. Maybe over a certain age, there's certain ones that can help you optimize, but really food first, lifestyle first. And then my third tip, pleasure is medicine. So cultivate natural highs, crowd out destructive pleasures with healthy hedonism. So I'm not here to be judgmental. I've partied plenty in my life. I've eaten so much junk, it's ridiculous. I'm impressed that my liver still works. But really, we're the artists of our lives. We create our own lives. So spending more time outside in nature. I like to go on a hike at least once a week. I would love to do it more. I'd like to do it more, but at least the once a week. Recharge yourself with mindfulness, meditation, sleep, chillaxing, just doing nothing. I have to really go against a lot of programs to lay in a hammock and read a book and do nothing, or just lay in a hammock and breathe and do nothing or nap. Meaningful human connections, making time for friendships and really letting friendships fall away that don't serve us, or relationships, and really cultivating ones that do serve us. Creative expression, any kind of, whether you're a musician or artist or cook or whatever your thing is, something creative. Delight your senses with smell. It could be food, it could be plants. I love essential oils. I'm a total junkie. Touch, it could be an animal, a friend, hugs, whatever, sex. Do it yourself or with a partner. Beauty, just going to beautiful places, looking at beautiful things, creating beauty around you. Music changes our physiology. Like you notice how you can have a complete state change when you play music. So play with, explore different kinds of music. Find ways to move that feel like play, dance. Even if you think you can't dance and you're not good at it, just do it anyway. Humans have always danced. Like it's so primal. Or just any, sports or whatever, just find ways to move that feel like play. And then I love to teach breathing practices and meditation that's simple and not like some pie in the sky thing you can never achieve. If it's complicated, you don't have to stop your thoughts to meditate. Like that's ridiculous. Your thoughts will stop when you die, when you're brain dead. So yeah, but you can get really high doing different kinds of breathing. And then healthy hedonism eating, like eating in ways that are good for you, but taste delicious. Like I feel like the food I eat is the most delicious food in the world. I love my own food. I love the way I eat. I don't feel deprived at all. Like I'm just like, oh my God, I'm in love with how I eat. I love it, love it, love it. I'm not missing anything. Oh, I'm missing out on feeling like crap from eating crap. Okay, so like we have this culture where we're like, well, I'll just eat whatever through the holidays, and then I'll just do a New Year's resolution and go on a diet in January. And that just doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. You know it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And also holiday weight gain just adds to the metabolic damage. And then on top of the pandemic weight gain, holiday weight gain, your average American only before the pandemic gained like 1 or 2 pounds per holiday, but it tends to accumulate year to year. And then, but people who already struggle with weight tend to gain a lot more weight over the holidays and accumulate it year to year. And it does metabolic damage. It does damage to your health. So, and the stress of the pandemic has done so much, like, I don't care who you are, how much you meditate, this has impacted all of us. It has already like put us on the edge. So we don't need to go through a holiday where we just push ourselves over the edge. I would love for us to go through a holiday, for you to choose a holiday where you're eating decadent foods, but you're supporting your well-being. And so you're still celebrating, you're still enjoying decadent food. You're just not making yourself sick, and you can actually lose weight. I just like that picture because this captures how I feel about New Year's resolutions. Like this whole celery lettuce idea of how to lose weight is terrible. So it was a long time ago, but probably about 20, 25 years ago, it was the first year I lost weight instead of gaining weight over the holidays. And I just made some changes to what I would or wouldn't eat, and came up with some of my own food. And I basically lost weight over the holidays through Thanksgiving, and my family celebrated Christmas. And I know not everyone, we have some Jewish friends there and friends from other faiths. So, but anyway, Thanksgiving, New Year's, all that stuff. So I actually lost weight over the holidays, and I did it eating delicious food. And I noticed, like, after I ate, I didn't have to go pass out in pain like I had every other year and like all my other relatives were doing. So it was really cool to like actually feel good after a holiday meal, feel satiated, and be able to eat tons of leftovers and still not gain it. So recently, this whole thing came about, this presentation and what I'm about to share with you all came out because some of my best friends from college came to visit me in Hawaii. And one of them was saying, God, if I could just get back to my pre-COVID weight. And I was thinking, well, you can, of course you can. So one of the other girls, she and I were talking about it, and she's like, and I said, God, I guess I'm supposed to do some program in January so people can lose weight. I guess I'll wait till January because no one's going to want to actually try to improve anything until after the holidays because people have such a mindset about this. And she's like, well, why not? Like, why don't you help people lose weight before the holidays? So like, teach them how to go through the holidays this way and then carry them through to January. And then you don't have to make a New Year's resolution because you're already doing it, like you don't just break the cycle. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try that. Like, it may not work. No one may listen to me, but I'm going to give it a shot. See what happens. So I came up with this program. So it's a 10-week masterclass. It starts November 1st and goes through January 10th. And there will also be a self-study option. I'll get that in a minute if you don't want to do a group. But it's called Got Quarantine Belly, Unlock Those Lockdown Pounds Before the Holidays. Same title as this presentation with me. And so the point of this program is to help you recondition your gut and microbiome, balance your hormones, improve your sleep, and give you tools to experience more calmness and joy, and then lose weight as a natural side effect. But I also want you to boost energy and confidence and trust in yourself, normalize your appetite so you don't have an appetite control problem, and enjoy food more than ever before, and lose weight as a natural side effect. This is the last one. I want to help you slow accelerated aging and reduce disease risk. I want to help you increase your immune resilience. I want to help you experience more pleasure and fulfillment, and lose weight as a natural side effect. So these are the two options. One is the self-study program, where you just watch recorded modules, study at your own pace. There is included this metabolic reset cleanse, where you eat food. You don't have, I'm not against fasting, but you don't have to go without food. You can fast if you want some other moment. And then I give you this belly fat checklist that kind of helps you inventory, why you might have weight on your body, and, like what you need to troubleshoot, like what's working, what's not working. And then if you want to do the all-in live group program, there's an intake inventory. So it's like a questionnaire that I will review for every single person to really get a feeling for where you need support. It's going to be a small group. I keep my groups really small, like 8 to 10 people, something like that. We have a few people signed up already. It's a small, intimate group with individual attention and community support, where we all support each other. There's going to be 8 recorded modules. It's 10 weeks. Actually, it's almost 11 weeks, but it's 10 weeks, and 8 modules you're going to watch. And then we're going to have weekly coaching meetings, and you can ask questions, but also I'll help coach you. And because we'll be in a small group, everyone will get attention. And I'm also I created already a private Facebook support group, so people can post things and ideas and support each other, that kind of thing. If you don't like Facebook, you don't have to participate. And then the option of accountability buddies, like if you want to pair up with someone or get in a triad and help hold each other accountable. Plus, we'll be a small group, so we'll already be doing that anyway. And then you'll also get 2 private one-on-one sessions with me. At strategic points, so I can help you one-on-one, even though I will have gotten to know you pretty well in this small group, and have helped you a lot that way. So that again goes November 1st, 2021 to January 10th, 2022. And we're going to be meeting on Mondays. Yeah, and if that doesn't work, it seems like Monday so far works with the people that signed up. And then if you're interested, but you're not sure if it's a fit, I'm happy to just talk to you, and I'm not going to pressure you. I only want people to join who it's really good fit, and kind of see if it's a two-way fit. Yeah, so we can just talk for half an hour, maybe less, and see if it's a fit. So the self-study program is $497 or 2 payments of $262. And again, that's just, you do it on your own. I only recommend this if you're someone who finishes things and you're really strapped for money and you really need this, and you're able to self-schedule and be pretty self-disciplined. Because I can tell you, I bought a lot of programs I haven't finished. I may have gotten some value, I may have started them, but anyway, if you're self-directed, that could work for you. And then the group is $1997 or 3 payments of $697. And then I put the asterisk there to remind myself that I put some people on more drawn out payment plans, like they were maybe over 4 or 5 or 6 months. So if money's an issue and you really want to do this, we can figure something out. Just talk to me and we'll find a way to make it work for you. Because I don't want that to get in the way. But I put a lot of energy into this. I keep the group small. I put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this. And so I want to really deliver. I want you to get value from that. You will. So I am doing the enrollment's open until the 30th, which is this Saturday. I've actually had this open for a little while. This is the second presentation I'm doing about this. But right now I'm doing a bring a friend special, where if you bring a friend, you each save $400 off enrollment. And then if you enroll or schedule a call with me by tomorrow, Wednesday, the 27th, tomorrow night at midnight. So by tomorrow night at midnight, if you either enroll or schedule a call with me, then you save an additional $100, whether you bring a friend or not. So you just save $100 either way. And then if you bring a friend, then you also save the $400. And it's also good to have a buddy. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up with one of my very favorite quotes in the whole world that I feel like captures what I want to offer people. It's by Naida Wahi. And I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. It took a long breath and replied, I've been waiting my whole life for this. So I used to not be friends with my body, and it was very sad. And then I want to wrap up with Mary. She's so sweet. Like, I love this. I love what she wrote. She said, I lost 30 pounds. An amazing, unexpected, and oh so welcome outcome is that for the first time in forever, I eat without guilt. I seriously never put food in my mouth without feeling guilty until now. Food is a joy. Cooking is a joy. Taking care of myself as though I were a loved one is a joy. I still care about how I look, but care as much about how I'm healing my body. As motivating as looking better is, the most precious gift is that I'm improving my longevity odds and feeling great physically and mentally. She's awesome. Okay. So I just want you to use that to imagine it's possible for you. It's not just something that other people achieve and you can't do. You have so much possibility, we all do. And I'm here to support you. And I just want you to imagine, how would your life be different if you did this or something like this for yourself? Because whether you work with me or do something else, I want you to have an amazing life.